Hello friends, welcome to part 4 of the web series Learn IoT with MediaTek LinkIt 1. In the last episode, we saw how to use temperature sensor to interface it with the MediaTek LinkIt board. We also saw how to use the datasheet of the temperature sensor to derive the formula, and we actually wrote the code to read the sensor value and display it in the serial monitor. In this episode, let's see what's next. So as we know, IoT is all about three things. The first thing is the sensor or the nodes. So many sensors are connected to an IoT device which connects through the internet to the IoT cloud. And from the IoT cloud, then the output devices takes the control. For example, displays and actuators. In the last episode, we saw that we use the temperature sensor to read the temperature values. So that's one example of a sensor, and we also explained to you how to use that in practical situations. Now in this series, let's try to use the other part of the IoT architecture, that is the output devices. And so in this episode, we'll see how those temperature values that we are reading it from the temperature sensor can be displayed on an OLED display. So what are we waiting for? Let's get started. So guys, before we proceed to the tutorials, I have one genuine request to you all. We have our official Facebook page, the link for which is given in the description box. Please click on the link and like our Facebook page. Here we will be posting the updates of all our new videos, new tutorials and new technology updates. So please don't get deprived of it and like our Facebook page now.
So friends, let's get started with the hardware connection. So what you require for this exercise are these components. MediaTek LinkIt board along with the groove shield that we have used also in the previous tutorial. We will also require a lithium ion battery. This is required because whenever we are trying to program the upload the Arduino code to the MediaTek LinkIt board, we need an additional power. So for that the battery would be necessary. Then temperature sensor, the NTC thermistor temperature sensor that we used in the last tutorial, and then the OLED display. Okay, the OLED display in this exercise that we are going to use, you can read the specification here. So it is 128 by 64 array and it's version 1.1. You can also use the OLED display of other times as well, but make sure that the libraries that you're going to download is the appropriate one for this exercise. Then we require two groove cables, one for temperature sensor and one for groove LED, and micro USB cable for connecting the MediaTek board to the computer for programming. So let's get started with the hardware interfacing. Okay, so for hardware interfacing, let's get started. We have a MediaTek LinkIt board with groove shield, and now this is the temperature sensor that we used last tutorial as well. So let's connect it first. So we'll attach the groove cable, and as we know that in the last exercise we connected to the A0 port, we'll keep it the same port because we will just modify that existing program to display the temperature on the OLED. Now let's take the OLED display, and at the back side of it there is a connector for it. So let's connect the groove cable, and as we know that the OLED display is a I2C interface display. So we'll have to connect this to the I2C connector on the groove. So you can connect it to any of the I2C connector. I'm going to use the first one. So okay, so I've connected the display. Alright, so I think the hardware setup is ready. What we have to finally do is connect the micro USB cable on the micro USB slot. So I'm gonna do that, and then connect the battery to the battery port. That's it. Now as soon as I connected the battery, you can see that the board is powered up, the LED is glowing. Now let's connect it to the computer and let's start programming. But before start programming, we'll have to understand how the program looks like. So let's go through the program.
So let's first understand the output device that we are actually taking into consideration in this tutorial, which is Groove OLED display 0.96 inch. So it looks like this, and if you go a little down and you can see the features about this. So it is Groove compatible, as we have seen already. It uses the I2C communication. It has a low power consumption, so it consumes very little power. The display color is white, so it's not a color OLED display. We have to understand that. The operating temperature is -20°C to 70°C, so you can choose the applications where the ambient temperature is going to be within this range. And the I2C address for this display is 0x3C. This is the hexadecimal address of the OLED display. Right, same specification repeats. So the power voltage is required 5.0 for this. The driver IC used is SSD 13080Z, and the dot matrix has 128 by 64 dot matrices, so 128 rows and 64 columns. The specification, mechanical specification, is given here, that what is the panel size, what's the active area of the display, and also the dot pitches and dot size. All right. So what we require is basically the library to get downloaded for the Arduino board, and so to do that, the link is already given in the description box. Even if you want to also download it separately, you can actually follow that link. So download the library first, and once you download it, you would see the zip package like this. So now let me show you how to import this library into your Arduino IDE and then use it in your code. So to do that, just open the Arduino IDE and go to Sketch and include library. Look for an option called add.zip library. Click on it, and it will give you it will open the browser and what you need to do is go to where you have downloaded this library. So you just select the library and then just say choose. Once you choose, you can see that the library would be then available here. So you can see, yeah, Groove OLED display 0.96. So that's it, how you can add the library into your Arduino IDE. Now let's see how to write a code. Okay, so here's the code. For the convenience, I have already written the code, and I'll just take you through these steps in the code so we can save time. The code is also available to download from the link which is given in the description box, so please feel free to download it and you can modify the code as per your need. So let's go through the code step by step. As you can see that from the last time we have written the code, the new things I will just try to also highlight. There are a couple of include headers now. So there is a seed OLED which is added, and the seed OLED, this is the include file, header file for the seed OLED display. So that is definitely required, otherwise it wouldn't understand the seed OLED parameters, variables or commands, so we have to include that. The constant declaration is exactly the same, so we don't have to go through here. What has been changed is basically we are doing seed OLED.init. So this function initializes the seed OLED display. This is absolutely necessary. If you do not call this, then the subsequent function calls will fail. So please make sure that we do that in the setup. All right. Then we have seed OLED clear display. So we are doing that to make sure that there are no any glitches or the leftover values that are there in the OLED display. So we are just clearing it, that which also clears the cache of the display. So this clears the screen, and it will also set the starting position to the top left corner. Okay, then we are calling seed OLED.set normal display. This is necessary because we are going to use the display in the normal mode. So if you want to use the inverse mode, for example, so you can use also the inverse mode. Okay, so there is a function for setting to inverse mode also. For the time being, we are going to use it for normal display. and then we use it the addressing mode as a page mode. So to do that, we call the seed OLED set page mode function. Right, now this is all about the setup. So now let's see how are we going to display the temperature values which is read from the temperature sensor to the OLED display. All right, so as you can see that this code is exactly the same. Okay, so I'm not going to explain that again. You can refer to my previous video to understand what exactly these lines of code means, and you can observe that there are two lines of code which I have now commented. The reason basically because now there is no need to write the temperature values on the serial monitor or on the serial port. So we're not going to do that now. What we will instead do is we will write that temperature value onto the OLED display. So I'm just commented those, and now let's see the code that is written for displaying the temperature values. So what I do first is I call set text xy function. Okay, and I set it the x and y coordinate to 0, 0. All right, so please understand that the first parameter is the page. Okay, and the second parameter is the column. Right, so I'm setting it to 0, 0, which means the column is going to be 0. Okay, so the x, actually in the xy coordinate, the x value is basically 0. All right, the column here means the x value, and the page is basically the row where we're going to put it. So I'm putting it as 0, 0, and then I'm going to write the string as temperature. Okay, so what I expect is that when the display will start, the temperature string will be displayed in the first row. Then I set the xy coordinate, text xy coordinate to 2, 0. Now what does that mean is, again, the x position is 0, the column is 0, but the page or the row is 2. So please understand that, otherwise you will make a goof of that. You will write it as 0, 2. That will not be right. It has to be 2, 0. So we need to understand what set text xy expects. Okay, so once I do that, then what I'm going to do is the temperature value that I'm getting here, which is in the float format, right? So I'm going to put that value to the second page and 0th column, right? So I'm going to call the function called put float. Now put float will basically we have to give a float value, which is a temperature, and I'm giving a decimal point. So how many decimal points we need to read? So for example, if the temperature is let's say 35.2222, then if I want only 2 decimal points, then I can write 35.22, for example. So I'm going to use that now. So I want to have 2 decimal points. If you want to have more accurate readings, then you can go and increase the decimal values also. And then I'm going to put a string, which is a symbol C, which means Celsius. Right, and what I'm going to do is I'm going to put a delay of 1000 milliseconds. So every 1 second the temperature is going to get read, and then the temperature value is going to get displayed on the display also. That's it, very simple program. So now let's program it. So I've connected the board, LinkIt board here, and so let's select the port here. Selected the port, and let's click on upload. Right, so before upload, it will again compile the sketch, and as you see that there are no errors. So now it has started uploading the program to MediaTek LinkIt board. It will take few seconds, and that's it. The upload is done, and now let's see how the if the program is getting executed successfully and it runs quite as we expected. So let's see that.
Okay, so as we have programmed the Arduino with our program, as you can see that we have connected the temperature sensor, and now as we have written the program, you can see that the temperature value is getting displayed on the OLED display. I'm just going to raise it a little bit so that you can see it clearly. You can see the temperature reading is 12.01 degrees centigrade, and we have programmed it to read it every few seconds. So you can see that it is updating the temperature. Now I'm going to just hold my finger on the NTC thermistor, and let's see the temperature value changes. Ideally the temperature should increase. So now you can see that the temperature is gradually increasing. 13, 30.49, 57. So you can see that there is a rise in the temperature, right? I leave it, and now the temperature should drastically drop down. So now you can see that the temperature is dropping down slowly, 13.25. That's it. So we have done the programming, and as you can see that we have successfully connected the output device to MediaTek LinkIt board. Thank you.